and welcome back. This might be one of the most important videos I ever create. And the ironic part is that most likely I will get half the amount of views of all of my agenda and conspiracy videos that I do. And I think the reason for that is a pretty good sentiment on where we're at in humanity right now. People would rather want to pinpoint someone or something else to blame rather than taking full radical responsibility for their own reality. You see where I'm going with this? In order to create the reality that you desire, you need to be willing to create change in your current life. Today, I'm going to give you the keys to how this reality is changing and shifting and what you can do to truly master it. Now, you may have to watch this video a couple of times, but just know that your soul is taking it all in. Truly, you already know that this is the truth. It is just simply a validation. So try not to feel overwhelmed in the information and just know that just by hearing it, the change has already begun. So let's talk about this reality and let's talk about you mastering it. And I know that you're ready for this information because you came to this planet. I mean, straight up. This planet is truly a PhD for a soul. You have to be a master's student in order to be here. And maybe there's a couple of people getting their high school diploma or their college degree or whatever, but they're most likely not on this channel. So hang in there. Now, first I want to dive into exactly what it is to master. And then we're going to break down that concept. It's going to sound really simple, but it's not. The one word I would use that we all need in order to master this reality is the word balance, right? Another word for it is neutrality. Another word for it is equanimity. Another word for it is 0 point, all right? We're going to break down what that looks like and how that's changing very rapidly here on planet Earth. Now, I'm going to break down another concept for you. This concept is actually tattooed on my body. This is something that came to me a very long time ago. I would say I was probably about 20 years old when I originally got the first tattoo. And then a year later at 21, I got the second tattoo. And those are my shoulder tattoos. If you've ever seen my shoulders, I do have an equation on them. This is an equation that I've created, so of course, take it or leave it. This is an equation that I learned back in an ancient Greece lifetime. Like I said, take it or leave it, but it really speaks volumes to what we're going to be breaking down and talking about today. So the first word in the equation is knowledge. But knowledge is squared, meaning a representation of all knowledge, both of the physical world and the non-physical world, okay? Plus, now you take knowledge squared, you add perception to it, perception being our mindset, right? Our belief system, our identities, our ego. So knowledge squared plus perception equals reality. And just take that in for a second. This is my equation for reality. Because in order to understand how to master this reality, we need to understand what the definition of reality is. So I'm going to give you an example of this equation. Okay, so we've got a table. Take a coffee table, for example, in your living room. Okay, so the objective knowledge of that table in, say, the physical world, all right, is that it exists in an atomic state, which means that we perceive that table as physical, and that's it. That's the knowledge of that table. That table is existing as its atomic state in your living room, okay? Now we add our perception to the table. Maybe you have a really good perception. Maybe you're like, I got that table for super cheap on Facebook Marketplace and I love it. It goes so well with the decor of the room. Or maybe, okay, and we are back. That was really weird. My whole app just completely crashed. You gotta love it. Glad I was able to get back on. So going back to the table, or maybe your perception of the table is negative. Maybe you stumbled around one day and you ended up hitting your leg off the table and breaking your leg, and then it cost you a bunch of money and it was very painful, and so you hate the table, right? Regardless of your perception of the table, it is the knowledge of the table itself, plus your perception, your experience, your belief, your emotional state around it, that creates your reality. Once again, knowledge of the physical or non-physical world objectively, plus your perception of that knowledge, creates reality. Therefore, your reality is subjective. No two people have the same reality. We're not living in the same reality because we all have different perceptions on the physical and non-physical world around us. So it was about a year later, and I was really contemplating, if that's the definition of reality, then what's the definition of truth? And is there even such a thing as truth? So then, going back to the same equation, which is on my other arm, I said knowledge squared once again, but this time we minus the perception. We take away our perception, we take away our experience, we take away our emotions, we take away our attachment, we take away our identifiers, right? And it equals truth. So knowledge squared, knowledge of the existence really of the atomic world, the physical world, and of the non-physical world objectively, without our perception, equals truth. Therefore, can we ever obtain truth as a human being? I mean, based on these equations, not really, right? But herein lies the key to mastering our reality. It is through non-perception. This is also the key to remote viewing. I know it's pretty wild, but there's no way to objectively remote view a scene, a situation, a conversation, if you already have a perception on the outcome. In order to remote view, in order to leave your body, in order to gain access to information beyond this physical realm, you need to be objective. You need to be observing. You need to be balanced. You need to be neutral. You need to be in a state of 0-point frequency. That is the key to not only just mastering this reality, but to escaping it altogether while we're still existing in it. It's pretty wild, pretty mind-blowing, but this is where we're at right now in reality. We are all on the verge of getting to this place in our life where we can become true masters of this reality. This is why we're having this conversation right now. Okay, before I get into the deep dive of polarity, we're going to talk a little bit about AI, the 3D, the linear experience, the nonlinear experience, all of that great stuff. Just a couple of housekeeping notes. Coming up on February 11th, I've got my Galactic Federation Summit. It'll be season 2026, of course, episode 2. And we're talking about love, relationships, romance, twin flames, being single, starseeds, and everything that has to do with basically the month of love from an alien's perspective. So if you're interested in watching me remote view extraterrestrials and the Galactic Federation of Light, this is sure to be a really good one, especially if you're struggling in a romantic relationship or you're struggling as someone who's single and really looking for that person and that partner. I think that they're going to have a lot of information to teach us. And then, yeah, another announcement. I'm sure that you're aware of it, but I do have my new book that is out right now. Your Anxiety is Giving Me Anxiety. There's some really incredible reviews coming in, so I'm really grateful for that. Be sure to check that out. It's pretty much being sold everywhere. And then the Audible is also available. If you want to come see me live in person, I will be in LA February 20th and 21st at the Conscious Life Expo. I really hope to see you there. I just got a message this morning saying that my workshop tickets are pretty much completely sold out. That's okay, because I am hosting a panel and I will be doing an in-person book signing, and there's really no limit to that. So come on out, come see me in LA at the Conscious Life Expo. My mom will be there, so will my stepdad. It'll be a good time. And yeah, and then I'll also be going to New York in March, and I'll also be going to Las Vegas in April. So if those are your areas, definitely hit me up. And the website to go for that is anxietytour.com. All right, awesome. That is all the things. Let's get into it, and just hold on to your seats. Like I said, this might be one you need to rewatch. Okay. This sentence I'm about to say is so important that I'm going to say it twice. Polarity can only be neutralized through experience. Let's break this down for a second. Once again, polarity can only be neutralized through experience. The nature of this reality is polarizing. You either have or you don't have. You're either in a good mood or a bad mood. The sun is either shining or it's not shining. The nature of our entire existence is a polarizing one. If you take a look at the state of the world, especially the state of the USA, we collectively are more polarized than ever before. You cannot master your reality if you are in polarity. Once again, you cannot master your reality if you're in polarity. Because if you're in polarity and you're choosing one side, then you are in reality. Reality is happening to you. You are not happening to it. You are feeding into the limitations that this reality has. If you master it, you basically rise above it. But the only way to rise above reality and master it is to go through polarity. You can't just skip over the bad shit. You can't just denounce the challenge. You can't just justify the negativity. You have to experience it. You have to feel it. You have to be in it. Likewise, you can't just attach yourself to the good days and distract yourself from the bad days, because that's also not this reality. It's not this world. It's not the truth of it. In order to master this reality, you need to experience polarity. And right now, the entire world is experiencing polarity to a point where the elastic band has got to snap, and we've got to come back together into a place of unity. You can only do that when you've experienced both the darkness and the light, and then choose both of them simultaneously. Yes, it is totally possible to do that. It is not very easy to do that, but it's like you have to have just as much respect and appreciation for the darkness as you do for the light. It's easy to love the good days. It is very difficult to love the hard days, okay? But that's what we have to do. Not to mention, you have to take, my friend, full responsibility for the good days, which is easy to do, cool. But you simultaneously have to take full responsibilities for the bad days as well. Not that this is my fault, but this is something that I brought onto my path to learn from. So what am I learning from it? How can I grow from this moment? How can I grow from this lack, this challenge? What can I take and learn and appreciate from the darkness just as much as the light? When we can get to that place where we aren't attaching to one side or another, right? The people who attach themselves to the challenge, poor me, I can't afford that, I can't do anything, I can't go anywhere, it's just life just keeps lifing, and I can't get unstuck. And that attachment to that state of being is going to remain there until you realize, I created this. Then you ask yourself, why did I create this? What am I learning from this? You learn the fucking lesson and you move on. Doesn't mean the challenge stops. It means that you move on from that lesson, whether it be a bad, abusive relationship that keeps coming up in different forms, or a power dynamic that you're confronted with in work, or a lack of finances. You know, when you can stop and take the responsibility and ask the appropriate questions, you change the dynamic of it. When you are the victim of circumstance, there is no empowerment. There is no overcoming it. There is just being stuck in it. And that's okay. It's okay to feel it. It's okay to be in it. It's okay to observe it. It's okay to feel shitty about it. Actually, it's all important to be in it, but you can't be in it forever. And right now, anything that we are attached to, either side, is getting purged out right now. If you are attached to light and love and abundance and manifestation or spiritual experience or whatever it is, that's being ripped from you because you're attached to it, because that's not the only state of experience in this reality. Likewise, if you're attached to being the victim or to feeling like you are getting crushed under a circumstance or you're repeating the same patterns, that's getting ripped away from you, right? It's either getting a lot worse so that you can get yourself out of it, or it's getting a lot better so that you can change your perspective around it. Either way, it's all happening for you, not to you, okay? You have to experience polarity in order to master reality, period. But this is where things get kind of weird, because our experience is changing in a really big way. And we got to talk about it. All right. We are moving away from 3D. We're moving away from, what is 3D? It's physical space and time, right? Not that time is physical, but it's space and time, right? Contained within a linear progression. So we're moving away from the 3D experience into a non-linear or quantum experience. What am I talking about here? What I mean here is that we're not just going to the grocery store to buy that bucket of ice cream to go home and enjoy it. We're going to the grocery store and we are feeling every single person we pass by in that grocery store. We pick up that bucket of ice cream and we're feeling the guilt and the shame of the last person who touched it and almost bought it because they were going to eat the whole thing and then they didn't, and so they left it, and now you're taking on the residual effects of that energy. We are no longer experiencing this reality as a material form. We're experiencing not just materialism, but also all of the energy and interactions between the materialism, if that makes sense, okay? We are going from a linear experience into a non-linear experience. Instead of things happening from A, B, C, they're happening A, B, C, all at the same time, all together, which can be so overwhelming and so confusing, which I actually help teach people about how to organize that non-linearity in my anxiety book, right? Because that's the problem. We're experiencing so much more. It's a blessing and a curse, but initially it's going to feel like quite the curse because it's a lot more overwhelm, because it's a lot more that we're processing and we're interfacing with. Okay, there was a fact that I read today, which is fascinating. I don't know if it's true or not, but I just wanted to talk about it because it sparked something in me. For the first time, apparently, the younger generation has a lower IQ than the generation after that, which would be, so I think it was like Gen Z compared to millennials. For the first time ever, the younger generation has a lower IQ than the older generation. And the reason why is because they're outsourcing their own brain capacity into AI, which obviously makes sense, and we're only ever going to see this as more of a trend moving forward. But here's the fascinating part. Here's the thing that I just want to contemplate with you. It's not necessarily a solution. It's just more of an observation. Okay, so how do I even put this? Yes. All right. I wrote it down. Technology is taking over our biological functions, like literally the function of our brain. Okay? That being said, how do I put this? It's like such a new concept that I just thought of today. If technology is taking over our biological functions and our ability to process and understand, then that leaves, yes, it leaves us sort of unable to think for ourselves, for sure. That's the downside. As everything, there's a good and a bad side. There's a positive, though, here, right? If it takes our basic functions of like math or science or geography or, I don't know, directions because I use my GPS for everything, right? Like the saying I always get in my head is convenience is gained, our skills lost. I mean, here we go, right? With the whole AI. However, that being said, now there's going to be a bit of a gap where it's like we decrease in intelligence and then we get so bored because AI is going to take over functionality of a lot of things that a lot of the time we've been forced to do by societal standards. And then there's going to be this gap of like, we're not thinking for ourselves, we're not outputting anything, AI is doing it all. And then all of a sudden there's a huge spike in consciousness and awareness because we're so bored, we start thinking beyond the basic fundamentals. Like I said, this is a very new concept that I'm just playing around with in my mind. Okay, so then I also wrote down here, when there is nothing more to learn, we can only ever expand through experience. So it's kind of the example of, instead of reading a book on biology, right? I mean, obviously, if you're a doctor or whatever, even though we know that that world is very corrupt, but certain people need to know certain information. Yes, for sure. Okay. But instead of reading a book and getting the information that way, AI will present you the information, but what AI can't do is give you embodied experiences. And so we then sort of turn our attention and our focus and our energy into experiencing life and reality. Instead of having the news give us our perception, we choose to experience it ourselves to gain access to our own perception. Because essentially there's going to be all information on both sides and we've got to make a choice, right? So like I said, just a very new thought, but it really did spark something in me. Okay, so we'll move on from the whole AI thing. But once again, polarity can only be neutralized through experience. We can only master this reality if we neutralize polarity. Get it? Got it? Good. Awesome. Experience is the key here. Experience and then growth through experience. And we experience growth by questioning and learning from the experience that we're in, if that makes sense. All right. Anything you are attached to is being purged out right now. Anything you react to simply exists to help you experience polarity. Do you hate Donald Trump? Do you love Donald Trump? I don't know why, it's just like he's like the first person that comes to mind as like the biggest polarity trigger for most people. Lean into that. Whatever you're attached to, or whatever you reject and hate, wherever your emotions sway, is something that you still need to learn. Like, this is gonna sound really bad, right? But like every once in a while, I'll check into my own material attachments. It's gonna sound bad. I definitely don't think I've ever said this, but every once in a while, I'll think to myself, if everything in my house burnt down, let's just say everyone was out of the house, everyone was safe, okay? But if everything that I owned, including my car, right, if it all just burnt down to the ground, if I didn't have any of it left, what would I be the most sad about? What would I mourn the most? What would pain me the most? Typically, it would be, like paintings, right? Like my paintings, just because they're very unique. I mean, even things like photograph albums and scrapbooks and things like that are sentimental, yes, but now everything's digital, right? But even my paintings, I could just totally let go of. So you gotta do an attachment check in on yourself with this material world. People are excluded, right? And even that we can assess as well. But if everything in your life, if every material thing, every possession that you owned burnt down to the ground, if you no longer had it, what would upset you the most? And these are the things that we have to sort of assess and then let go of. What in your life triggers you the most? What creates the most negative reaction? What gives you the most amount of anxiety? What gives you the most amount of anger? These are things, these are people, these are beliefs, these are political agendas. These are things that we need to release. I know for me, one thing that I'm constantly working on is chemtrails. It's really difficult for me to look up in the sky and see an entire grid just being formed and not feel triggered by that, and not feel sort of like a victim in that, These are things that we have to observe objectively, to understand that they're in our life and in our reality to teach us something, and then to let it go and to neutralize it. Observe it, learn from it, neutralize it. That is the only way to master your reality. Okay? All right. So what happens after we overcome polarity? Well, people would love to say, I'm ascending to the 5th dimension and I'll see you in the clouds, I'll be talking and chilling with my alien friends. But that's just not the case. I mean, you're still going to be in this body. You're still going to be, contained within this box and these 4 walls. And at the end of the day, you still have to pay the bills, right? There's still going to be challenge. So what happens when we move out of being attached and feeding the system through polarity and our belief is that we get to easily and effortlessly move through the spectrum of experience with ease. Yeah, sometimes there's going to be chemtrails. Yeah, sometimes the clouds are going to cover the sun. Yeah, sometimes it's going to snow or rain or flood or whatever. Yes, those things are going to happen, right? But if we can observe them as all part of the spectrum of this reality and neutralize our reaction around it, you are well on your way, my friend, to truly mastering this world. You know what the best thing is of true objective observation, radical responsibility, and mastering polarity? Because you aren't attaching or reacting to one timeline, to one fractal, to one aspect, to one trigger, you get to then observe the timeline and the reality that you want to step into. You are no longer existing from the past. You are starting to create and hop into the future, which once again, in a nonlinear state, is all happening already. The highest timeline, the timeline where you have beautiful children and a full fridge and a full bank account and a beautiful career that you feel excited about waking up to every day, that already exists. And when you stop attaching and reacting and trying to recreate something because you're scared of fucking change, you're sticking yourself to the past. When you can observe polarity without attachment or reaction, you rise above it, and in that state of objective observation and 0-point frequency, you can then observe consciously, willingly, with your full might and strength, whatever the fuck you want. And then you create that. That's mastering your reality. So right now, I am prompting all of you to work on what isn't working. If it's not working, don't distract yourself from it. Ask yourself what you're learning. Why did you bring that into your life in the first place? Learn the lesson. Make a different choice than what you usually make and move forward. But understand that polarity is needed. Right? It's a whole spiritual bypass to just be like, nope, life is always beautiful. That's bullshit. That's not what life is. That's not what this reality is. That's not realistic. We have to experience polarity in order to neutralize it. All right. Also, things get weird and glitchy when we get into a place of a nonlinear state. It's just like, okay, shit, I'm duplicating things, I'm stopping time, I'm slowing time down, I'm speeding time up, I'm creating instantaneous manifestations. It's wild and exciting and fresh and reviving for the soul, all right? Okay, before I get to my very last sentence, just be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and just a heads up, this month in February on my membership on my website, I am going to be remote viewing Oprah Winfrey. That's coming out on the 11th of this month, along with the Galactic Federation Summit. I'm going to be talking to my good friend Timothy, who is a half gray, half human Asasani being. We've got an astrology report. We've got 2 live coaching calls on Zoom and a Q&A. So you don't want to miss it. If you need and want more content and you want to find your community, then head on over to my website, elizabethapril.com. All right? And last but not least, so important, the whole world is experiencing polarity in order to come to the conclusion of unity. So what timeline are you going to feed? The one where we're stuck on one side or another? Or the one where you can see everything that this world has to offer? That is all from me, guys. I love you all so much. Keep up the good work. Work on yourselves, question everything, do a little bit of deep digging, purge out what no longer serves you, and get into a place of objective observation and start consciously observing the world, the timeline, the reality that you want to create. Because I believe in you. You can do this.